testing. A heavy concept loaded with memories of anxiety and frustration. The goal of testing? Everyone knows this. It is to prove that we have learned. We must prove to our teachers that we are progressing, that we are retaining what they teach us. This is the purpose of testing, to measure our progress. A necessary evil, some might call it. Most teachers know their students hate being tested, but how else will they monitor their progress? Perhaps we should find another way. Measure students' progress in a way that does not cause them so much anxiety, in a way in which they can express themselves. Not a likely option. Tests are important. There must be a standard by which governments and districts can see how their constituents are learning. Perhaps the solution to the problem of students' attitudes towards testing is to acknowledge that testing is not simply a measure of progress. Identifying tests' sole function as a progress makers is a myth, a flawed understanding of how testing really works. A great deal of research has shown that the purpose of testing goes far beyond its ability to measure student progress. Testing itself helps us learn. As Benedict Carey stated in his text, How We Learn, testing is studying of a different and powerful kind. Initial research into the value of testing as a study method, such as a study by Rundquist in 1983, has shown that individuals who practice memorization by way of cued recall test performed better on the final exam than those who only studied. The students in this study were given a final test both 10 minutes after studying and one test a week later. The students who had studied by way of pre-testing performed better on both final tests, but they performed significantly better on the exam given 1 week after the initial studying. Not only does pre-testing help us remember more, but it helps us remember longer. A plethora of subsequent studies have shown similar results. Researchers believe this is because when we test ourselves, we form new connections to the information, thus strengthening our ability to retrieve that information later. This phenomenon relates to the forget to learn theory presented by Robert Bjork and his wife, Elizabeth Bjork. Their theory states that memory has two strengths, storage strength and retrieval strength. Storage strength is a measure of how well learned something is. Retrieval strength, on the other hand, refers to how easily we can access that information. When it comes to testing as a method of studying, taking a test after initial study helps create new pathways to that piece of information, particularly if we cannot remember it on the practice test. When the answer cannot be remembered easily and we struggle, we create a deeper connection to that piece of information, allowing its retrieval strength to increase. It has also been noted that the act of giving active feedback after the pre-testing boosts overall performance. Interestingly, a study by Metcalf in 2009 found that final test performance for initially incorrect responses was actually better when feedback had been delayed than when it had been immediate. It appears that musing over the mistake for a time created stronger pathways in the mind, and when the correct answer was finally revealed, the brain was eager to collect that information. Spacing out pre-testing, feedback, and final tests into longer increments of time has been very successful. This is particularly significant because long-term retention is the ultimate goal when educating students in the first place. Pre-testing not only helps students perform well on their final exams, but it helps them retain the information far longer than if they only studied. With such abundant research in support of testing as a means of studying, rather than simple progress monitoring, we must ask ourselves why it is not more commonly used in the classroom. The stress and anxiety surrounding high-stakes test-taking could be significantly reduced if students were to learn how to engage with testing as a means to learning, not a moment where they must prove whether they've succeeded or failed. By engaging in frequent low-stake tests where no grade will be given, students can learn to relax while taking tests and not be consumed by worry and anxiety when the final exam comes. And most importantly, they will learn more, retain more, and gain confidence in themselves and their abilities.